Club. You want a prediction, and that is they're going to have a contested election, a convention of the Republican Party, and the one who emerges probably isn't going to be one of the front runners. It looked like Donald Trump was on the way to an easy victory, and then after Wisconsin, he was dumped pretty badly. And whether he can recover in New York remains to be seen. But the voters in the Badger State gave Ted Cruz a major victory over the Donald. Trump still has the most delegates, and we'll just see what happens. But my bet would be brokered convention and another candidate emerging. Wendy?
Exactly. The big question now is, are the Republicans headed for a contested convention this summer? Gary Lane brings us this look at the race for the White House.
It wasn't a knockout punch, but Senator Ted Cruz delivered a major blow to Donald Trump's effort to secure enough delegates to win the Republican presidential nomination before the GOP convention.
God bless the great state of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin Republicans gave Cruz the nod over Trump, 48 to 35%. Ohio Governor John Kasich came in a disappointing and distant third, winning only 14% of the vote.
Tonight is a turning point. It is a rallying cry. It is a call from the hardworking men and women of Wisconsin to the people of America. We have a choice, a real choice.
Cruz said he is truly unifying the Republican Party. Donald Trump responded, saying there's no party unity, just an anti-Trump initiative led by the GOP party establishment. But American voters may now be moving toward favoring Cruz over Trump. A new Reuters poll shows Cruz leading Trump for the first time nationally, 39 to 37%. And he'll still need to win 1,237 delegates to get the nomination. After Wisconsin, Trump has 740 delegates, Cruz 514, and Kasich only 143. Meanwhile, on the Democrat side, Badger State voters made Hillary Clinton feel the burn.
We won in Wisconsin.
Vermont Democratic Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders decisively beat Clinton by 10 points, with almost 57% of the vote to her 43%.
We have now won 7 out of 8 of the last caucuses and primaries.
But Sanders still needs to win about 67% of the remaining delegates to secure the Democratic presidential nomination. 2,383 are needed. Currently, Hillary Clinton has 1,743, Sanders 1,056. And while the momentum may now favor Sanders and Cruz, much can change in political campaigns. GOP frontrunner Donald Trump and Democrat Hillary Clinton are both expected to win New York when voters go to the polls there in the next 2 weeks. Gary Lane, CBN News.
You know, there was an article, I believe, in the Wall Street Journal today or in the New York Times about the people who we have selected for our president. And the trouble is, it is so dirty and it is so nasty that the average really upstanding person does not want to engage in that kind of mudslinging. They don't want to get into that battle. We have made it so unpleasant, and the press has been so relentless in destroying the reputations and the lifestyle of the candidates. I know what it was to be one, and I know what it was to have the Washington Post and all the Washington establishment coming after you. I mean, it's just horrible what they do. And as far as the Democrat Party goes, they'll destroy anybody. It doesn't matter. It's just dirty. And so the average person doesn't want to get in. So who do we have as our candidates? They're all flawed, you know. And it looks like we're going to have a story tomorrow. I'm going to show you what the polls show as to who can beat Hillary Clinton in terms of the Republicans. And neither Cruz nor Trump can do it. And as far as Bernie Sanders, he's a way out socialist, and are the Democrats going to be happy with that? And then their leader is under FBI scrutiny and the possibility of an indictment. I mean, this is not a pleasant situation to be in for the greatest nation on earth. Now, our CBN News political correspondent David Brody is with us now from Washington. And David, you know, Trump kind of skewered himself on abortion. Do you think that, what was it that did it? The attack on Scott Walker? What hurt him in Wisconsin?
So many things to talk about, Pat. So many mistakes by Donald Trump. Yes, the abortion comments hurt him considerably because not only did he tick off pro-life folks, he ticked off the other side as well. I mean, he basically, for a guy that has a problem with women in the polls, as the polling has indicated, he did himself no favors at all. Then he goes around Wisconsin and, in essence, let's just face it, Pat, he trashes Scott Walker, the governor there. By the way, yeah, he beat Scott Walker, but newsflash to Donald Trump, Scott Walker pretty popular in Wisconsin among the Republican faithful. Not a good move. Of course, Corey Lewandowski, his campaign manager, embroiled in the big controversy there. So you just go down the line. And quite frankly, Pat, there was another incident, but Donald Trump spent about a week or so off of the campaign trail while Ted Cruz was there in Wisconsin. You put it all together and you have a resounding Ted Cruz victory. And let's remember, if you go inside those numbers last night in Wisconsin, Ted Cruz not only winning evangelicals by a heavy amount, he's also now winning non-evangelicals, and that's a big deal. And another thing to point out here, and this is a problem for Donald Trump, this was an open primary in a blue-collar industrial state with a lot of white voters that he does well with, and he did not do as well with them last night. That's a problem.
He's going into New York, and of course that should be his territory. What are they saying about New York? Does it look like are the candidates talking to you about what looks like a contested convention?
Yeah, I think at this point it does look like some sort of contested convention, and we can talk about that in a moment. I do want to point out, as you mentioned, New York. Look, here's the good news for Donald Trump. New York is 2 weeks away. It is his home state. 95 delegates up for grabs. And at this point, he's polling over 50% in his home state of New York, meaning that there is a good chance, over 50% for sure, that he could get all 95 delegates in New York. That would be a reset moment for him. So I think, quite frankly, Pat, the key right now is for Donald Trump is, does he recalibrate in these next 2 weeks, become a little bit more presidential, or does he dig in his heels and say, you know what, I'm going with what I'm going with, and that's the way it's going to be? There's no indication at all that he's going to recalibrate. There are some suggestions at this point that he's going to come out with a couple public policy speeches on education, on the military, on judges. That'll help him. But if he doesn't get his presidential act together, he's in a world of trouble, because he needs those 1,237, those 1,237 delegates to win on the first ballot. If he doesn't win on the first ballot, all bets are off. We go to a contested convention at that point, and that's where Ted Cruz's operation has done a far superior job than Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump is not a politician, but in this case, it may pay to be a politician because Ted Cruz's campaign is doing a great job on getting and securing those delegates on the second ballot, which is where this thing may go to, Pat.
David, you want to talk about how delegates in New York are selected? It's a congressional district plus the state, and how is he going to shake down? I mean, if you win 51% or something, talk to us about the way that those delegates are apportioned.
Yeah, well, actually, in New York, if you win 50% of all delegates, and here's the key, not or, and you win 50% in each congressional district, you will win all 95 delegates. So there are two components to a New York winner-take-all scenario. At this point, at least, the polling shows that Donald Trump could indeed pull that off. We'll see. You know, I do want to clarify something, not clarify, but just explain to folks the difference between a contested convention and a brokered convention. We are headed, it seems, to a contested convention, which means no one's going to win on the first ballot. Then they go to a second and third ballot where delegates can vote for whoever they want. That's a contested convention. A brokered convention, much different. Then it becomes where we get to a fourth, fifth ballot, potentially. Ted Cruz doesn't have the delegates. Donald Trump doesn't have the delegates. John Kasich won't have the delegates. And then it's called brokered because we're going into a smoky backroom boardroom where Reince Priebus and the boys from the Republican Party say, hey, who do we have that can run? Oh, look over there. There's Paul Ryan. And that's the Paul Ryan scenario. That's the brokered convention. No one really thinks it's actually going to come to that. But, you know, who knows, Pat? I don't know. I need Excedrin.
Well, get a bottle of them, buddy. We'll go for it. Thank you, David. Terrific analysis. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Whew.
Yes.
What a night, you
Well,
know?
it is quite a night. It's going to be, I'm telling you, I'm really a little sick of what I'm seeing, though. I mean, the nastiness that's gone out there, and the idea of pictures of Cruz's wife versus Trump's wife, and this kind of stuff. It didn't used to be that way.
No.
We had the 11th commandment, and it was set up by Ronald Reagan, and he said, "Thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Republican." And the guys didn't beat themselves up. I ran against some pretty tough guys. I mean, wanted, you know.
And that was before Twitter, before Facebook, before social media. It makes you wonder if that's one of the reasons that they just need stuff to put out there.
Well, I think they're obsessed with that, but you know, you have to keep your hand off the keyboard, and you just can't just sit there at a typing machine and type out anything that comes to your mind.
Have you ever seen an election though where the front runners lose so big, you know, in one state, and then they do well in another state? And
Well, yeah, it happens that way. But it used to be, if you picked up some of the small ones, if you got Iowa, New Hampshire, and then you might pick up something like Wisconsin, and suddenly you were it, and the money started flowing in. Right now, they all have huge amounts of money, and they're getting it through social media, through Twitter and all that. Bernie Sanders is loaded. I mean, he has an enormous amount of money, as do all the others, so they can go the course. But we're going to show tomorrow, you know, the one guy in of the three of the Republicans who can beat Hillary Clinton is John Kasich, not Cruz and not Trump. From what we see in the polls. But as far as Bernie Sanders, who knows? I mean, he's a wild card. Nobody knows.